Well, the crypto market's pulling back over the last 24 hours, erasing some of the gains that were generated from Jerome Powell's speech. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about exactly why I believe that this pullback is happening and why I'm actually buying the dip during this pullback. So we have a good bit to get into today. But before we do, don't forget that if you're doing any trading at all in the world of crypto, you can sign up to the link down below to BTCC and get up to $10,000 in bonuses to each of you watching this right now. It's one of the best trading platforms out there. And matter of fact, what we're also doing right now is two of you who do sign up, deposit, and start trading are going to get an extra $250. So it's an absolutely fantastic campaign. Check out that link down below. Go ahead and get started today. So what we can see is that, the last 24 hours here in the crypto market honestly haven't been that great. Soros, SPX, IMX, Pump leading the way down anywhere from 9 to 16%, but most other cryptos down anywhere from 3 to 5%. Now, it's not a huge pullback, but it's definitely just a little bit of a letdown after the pump that we had seen, right? If we go look at Bitcoin's price, Bitcoin absolutely took off, sending it straight up to $117,000. But now we're in a situation where it has kind of pulled back a little bit. And although Bitcoin did initially pump all the way up to, say, 5%, it's now gone down to about 2.5%. So many of the cryptos out there that did see these pumps, they've gotten their gains cut in like half. And that's been pretty demoralizing for many investors because I think a lot of people did jump the gun here. I do think a lot of people got super excited, like, oh, this is the moment that everything pumps. And now this pullback has really killed their optimism. Now, gladly here on the channel, when this pump did happen, I told you all to watch two things. I said the first thing you want to watch is whether or not Bitcoin can break out of this descending channel. I said if Bitcoin can just confirm a full breakout. Sorry about the voice, by the way. I'm still a little bit sick. But I said if Bitcoin can break out of this descending channel, that is what's going to open up the door for a move up to 125K. But I told you, do not get too far ahead of yourselves because until Bitcoin breaks out of this, it can get rejected at any given point. And that's what happened. I also told you on Ethereum, you have to be watching the red box. I said, don't go too crazy. Don't just buy every single altcoin that you have until ETH can break the red box. This is the battle. This is the test. This is what needs to happen. And ETH is still trapped in the red box. And so gladly, those of you who watch this channel, you didn't jump the gun and you didn't get too far ahead of yourselves and open up huge leverage long trades and buy too much because now we have some gunpowder to work with now that the market is stabilizing, if not pulling back a little bit. If we head over to bubbles, you can see that this pullback is really translating, right? You look at basically every single spread, 1 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 300, basically everything is down. And so I want to talk a little bit about, now that we're in the modern day, why is this pullback happening and why I'm buying it. So the reason why I believe this pullback is happening is purely because it is a classic liquidity hunt. I think it is as pure a liquidity hunt as possible. I think there's 3 reasons why this pullback is happening, but the liquidity hunt version of that reason is the most important. But let me break down these 3 reasons. Okay. So reason number 1 is from a more fundamental perspective. Okay. Fundamentally speaking, it makes a lot of sense. We head into the weekend. People are really excited. People don't trust this market. People are going to take profits. Fundamentally, it makes sense as to why we would see a little bit of a pullback. Okay. Second, from a technical perspective, it makes even more sense. We saw the pump. The pump led us to those 2 major zones of resistance. Bitcoin is the top side of the descending channel. For ETH and altcoins, it was the red zone, right? We hit that major zone of resistance. We're going to see a natural pullback because it is a very hard level for us to break through, especially after failing to stay above it a few weeks ago. So from a technical perspective, it makes a lot of sense as to why we'll pull back. From a manipulation perspective, is the reason why we're pulling back. It is the most obvious reason as to why we're pulling back. And it is simply because there is manipulation occurring right now. What happened is that the market absolutely took off. People got optimistic. They got excited. They got too far ahead of yourselves. Again, gladly not you guys, but some people did get too far ahead of themselves. And what did they do? They went in, they jumped the gun, they bought big positions, they opened up huge leverage long trades. I showed you that on this channel. I showed you on the video. I said, look, all of these leverage long trades, look at how many people are betting huge that Bitcoin's about to send or that ETH's about to send. But the truth is, we still have these massive battles in front of us. That's a lizard food. These lizard people wake up, lick the eyeballs, see that, they're going to take it. That they want it. That's what they look for. And so in an emotional moment like that, when everybody's betting that Bitcoin's going to fly and we're at a massive level of resistance, of course you can expect that pullback to the downside because that's lizard food. I mean, that's just easy work for them, right? And that's the primary reason as to why this pullback is happening. And so when I look at this pullback, when I look at Bitcoin, when I look at ETH, when I look at XRP, and they're pulling back right now, I'm honestly not that scared of it. It's not something that concerns me too much. It's not something that even causes a fret to me because the truth is from a fundamental perspective, there is no core reason as to why we're pulling back. It's not like Jerome Powell posted a tweet, on his burner account and came out and said, "Hey, just kidding, LOL, not seeing any rate cuts in September, GG, get wrecked." Like, no, that didn't happen, right? We're simply just seeing the market just pulling back right now. I would actually say, matter of fact, from a fundamental perspective, we have more of a reason to go up than we do to go down, right? I think the idea that there could be rate cuts in September is enough fuel to cause some sort of pump. We're just seeing the manipulation slow that down. And I do personally believe that as long as Jerome Powell and the Fed and everyone doesn't come out on Monday and say something crazy that kind of contradicts everything from the Jackson Hole speech, I do think that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll probably see this market start to reverse on this pullback. And so because of that, I am going in and I am dollar cost averaging this dip. I am buying this dip because I don't think that this dip is going to lead us down to lower lows. It could. I'm not saying it won't. I just don't see why it would. I don't see why the same narrative out of here and the same narrative that got us up here couldn't be the same narrative, would be the same narrative, that pushes us back down here. And the narrative I'm speaking about is a potential interest rate cut approaching, right? Potential interest rate cuts approaching is what pushed us up here. It's what pushed us up here. The reason why we pulled back is because people thought interest rate cuts weren't going to happen. So why would we now see the market flip the script and see interest rate cuts actually being a possibility approaching, but then the market goes down for a lower low? The only reason that would happen is because of manipulation. That is the only reason as to why that would make sense, because you have to consider investor sentiment and what people are expecting. The market moves in advance. So if people are pricing in an interest rate cut, the market would not just go straight down. Okay, that does not make sense. Okay, so again, I'm not saying it won't happen. It can happen. I just don't think it's super likely that Bitcoin just crashes down to new lows. Again, if it does, it's purely manipulation. And it's possible. I just think a small chance, right? Like if we look at the 7-day liquidation chart for Bitcoin, you can see there are still a lot of liquidations to the downside. That's like 6.9 billion, right? But I think this pullback is shaking people out. I think this pullback is freaking people out of their trades, and more people will end up just closing these trades down before they can get liquidated, right? Because the lower down we've been going, the more these lower side liquidations have been drying up because people are getting scared, they're jumping ship, right? So sure, we may continue down a little bit more. In worst case scenario, I guess, sure, yeah, we do come down to 110. But I do believe we are going to see it reverse, and I think we are going to try to see this bad boy make another run towards the top side channel to try to break out of it. And so because of that, I am dollar cost averaging some of my Bitcoin, and I'm dollar cost averaging some of my altcoins as well. I'm dollar cost averaging a little bit on alts, not as much because ETH is still in this battle zone. It's not seen the pullback yet. So that does make me concerned that maybe alts do have a little bit more of a pullback to go, which could definitely be the thing that maybe bumps Bitcoin dominance up back to that trend line before it starts heading back down. So I am a little bit concerned about that. So I'm not doing big dollar cost averages on my alts, but I am doing some. I'm doing a little bit on ETH, a little bit on XRP, a little bit on Solana, a little bit on SWI. And I'm also doing it on some of my micro caps. One of the ones that we did recently actually invest in was DexRP. That was a pre-sale. That's the only pre-sale I've invested in quite some time. And they actually came out and said that they have just surpassed $5 million in the IDO stage, which does, of course, make me feel really good because this is one of the ones we caught whenever it was only like 2 million, 3 million. And so it just makes it more likely, of course, that it performs well and has volume post-launch. So DexRP has been holding up well. You guys know this is actually a company that we partnered up with a little while ago because they actually are bringing some really strong utility to the XRP ecosystem, which I think it actually needs. And so because of that, I actually did DCA a little bit of XRP, as I mentioned before, because I am glad to still see the ecosystem growing and still see, of course, utility being added to the ecosystem, which is where I think that XRP is lacking. So if you want to check out XRP, the link is down below. In 4 hours, they are going to have a price increase. So if that does influence you to want to check it out, feel free to check it out. But that is one that we are getting some good news from there. Inspect is one that I did do a small reinvestment of profit back into because we are seeing some pretty solid stability right now, right around the 3 cent mark. Coral's another one. This one I didn't reinvest into right now, but I am just happy with it because it is just gradually climbing, currently back around that 1.9 level. And Qubit's another one that's actually doing really well, especially over the last 24 hours, currently back around the 10.8 level and holding up super well. I mean, look at the stability, that casual uptrend there. So those ones are all doing good. Small reinvestment of profits back into those ones. The biggest thing that I reinvested into right now, though, is Bitcoin, just because Bitcoin has led the charge downwards, which could make it lead the charge upwards as well. So that's kind of where I am. I just don't think that this is a real pullback. I feel like this is an attack of the liquidity. I think too many people got too excited right here, and the lizard people are punishing them for it. And I don't think that's going to last super long. The worst case scenario is that it does come all the way back down to the light green or dark green box, but I'm very confident that it's going to try to make that move to the upside as long as nothing changes from a narrative perspective. like macro politically, right? Like again, if Jerome Powell comes out and said there's no rate cuts coming this year, that this is not my thesis. My thesis solely relies on where we are right now, and I believe that if things stay the same and nothing contradictory comes out, we are going to see this market try to recover. So with that in mind, that's kind of where we are with everything. That's why I am DCAing the dip. That's why I think the dip is happening. And yeah, so I know it can get a little bit discouraging, a little bit annoying to see these pullbacks, but remember, this is the market we're in. Pumps are followed by dumps. I've told you this all a million times. You just got to get used to it. So don't forget that if you do want to do some trading, one, be very careful right now because we are in liquidity hunt territory. But two, you can go get up to $250 to each one of you, or to two of you who do sign up and start trading today, to $10,000 in bonuses to each one of you who signs up down below. But overall, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're doing in the market. Again, sorry about the voice. I'm getting past a little bit of sickness, but hopefully in the next couple of days it'll clear up and we'll be back to normal. But if you have been enjoying the content anyway, do let us know by smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel if you are new, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.